Hello everyone, welcome to Twisted Serenity with Mimi. Thanks for clicking on my channel. So today I'm going to be bringing you some farmhouse DIYs. If you'd like to DIY on a budget and Dollar Tree, you come to the right place. Let's get started. So I have these scrap pieces of wood and I want to say they're about 14 inches. There's 4 pieces. I'm just showing you that they're pretty beat up. Honestly, I don't even know where I got these from, but Dollar Tree does have wood inside their crafter square. And I just start by sanding them down because I mean, when I tell you they were beat up, they were beat up. Like some of them were chipped and all. And I'm just putting some wood glue on each one because I'm going to start attaching these together. So I do a couple spots of wood glue and a couple spots of hot glue. Obviously, never put your wood glue with your hot glue because it will not stick together. So I do these to all 4 boards. So we are making a tray. So I have these 2 little pieces of wood, and I don't know why I just waved them like that. I was so excited. And I'm just attaching once again the wood glue with the hot glue, and I'm gonna stick them to each side, each ends of the boards that we just glued together, and we are going to use those as handles. And as you can see, I am using the Dollar Tree wood glue, and that stuff works awesome. My opinion, it works as good as the Gorilla Glue. So once I have these glued down and dried, I am just taking some white chalk paint, Waverly chalk paint, and I'm going to paint this entire board. I paint the wooden handles, the back of the board, the side of the board. I paint it all up. I wasn't lying when I told you guys these were beat up boards. Look at all those chips and stuff in the back. That's why I had to do so much sanding to it. Now, once it's dried up with the Waverly chalk paint in white, I am going to take my chippy brush in the color, what was it? Antique Wax. And I am just going to chip around, paint, not chip, paint around the whole board, dry brush around the whole entire board. So I'm taking antique wax first and I'm dry brushing around the whole board. But then I'm going to take elephant and I'm going to do the same exact thing. And I do kind of go a little darker around the corners, around the border, I should say the border of the board. And I just do this a couple times, alternating between the antique wax and the elephant chalk paint until I get the color that I want. And I'm just going to let you guys know as of right now, yes, I have some allergies, but this is my voice. I have a really, really raspy voice. I've always had a raspy voice since I was a little girl. So just a heads up, I'm always going to sound like this. So once I was done, painted it to how I wanted it to look, I took the fox leather ribbon that Dollar Tree brings and I cut about, I want to say, probably like 18 inches of it, and I'm gonna fold over the ribbon. You know, I've seen people put some ribbon on and they just cut a piece and put it over, but I wanted it to look a little bit thicker and a little bit more sturdier. So I did cut a long piece, I glued it, and I did fold it over, and that's what I'm gonna put on each side. So obviously I cut another piece and I made a second one for the other side. So I just measured them out where I wanted to place them, and I put a dab of hot glue and I kind of bunched it up a little bit in the middle to look like the handle, and I just glued both sides down. So once I glued both sides down, I got these stickers. They're the pop dot stickers. These are the bigger ones. They do sell the smaller version. And I painted some in black. So I put 2 on each side of my handle. So I put 2 at the bottom, 2 at the top, and I did the same thing for the other side. Now, you could use tacks, you could use like the smaller ones. This is what I had, so this is what I use. Now, this stencil, I got this packs of stencils on Amazon about a year ago. And I didn't have masking tape, so I glued it down with scotch tape. And at first I painted it in the color plaster, and it was too light for me, and I didn't like the way it looked. So I started going over it with Waverly chalk paint and the color ink. Now, do with a stencil, these ones don't bleed as much. They're pretty good, but you do have to hold them down. You dab it. You have to dab it. Don't paint it on because it will bleed through. I just dabbed it with my stencil brush from Dollar Tree. I painted the word into the truck in black. And then on the side, you guys could see there's leaves. So I just wanted the leaves a little pop of color inside of it. So I painted it Waverly chalk paint in the color moss. So once I had the stencil on, I was done. I sanded it down a little bit just to make it a little bit more distressed. And that was it. You guys could use, your Cricut. If you guys have a Cricut, Dollar Tree has stickers. But I honestly love the way this came out. Let me know what you guys think. So for this DIY, we're going to make a sign. And this board, I've been having this board for years. That's why it's pretty beat up. I'm using all my beat up stuff for this project. So I just took my heat gun and I just started peeling off the paper from the sign. And with the heat gun, it peeled off pretty fast and pretty easily. Once it was all peeled off, I did sand it off and I grabbed my Waverly chalk paint and the color plaster and I painted the whole entire sign. So once I had it all painted and dried up, I grabbed my ruler and a pencil and I am going to make some lines to make it look like it's shiplapped. When I was drawing my lines on, I did take my pencil and go some place darker. Like I went darker in some spots and lighter in some other spots. Because those are shiplap lines look. Then I have these dowels that I had purchased on Amazon and they are a 1/4 inch, I believe. And I'm going to use these dowels as a border. Now you could use a canvas, you could use a Dollar Tree sign, anything that you have. So I measured the dowels onto my sign and I cut the dowels on a 45-degree angle and I measured them all around my border. So I'm going to tell you, these are not perfectly cut, they are not perfectly measured. I am horrible with measuring. I am horrible with cutting. But I did what I had to do. And I got my little farmhouse sign done. So I got smart. And once I cut one side, I did just line it up. And I measured it from the same one that I did from the top to the bottom. Because sometimes I'm not that smart. And sometimes I'm sitting here struggling, making work harder for myself. So once I had my whole sign together. My whole border together. I just took some wood glue and once again some hot glue and I just started assembling my whole border for my sign. And I'm sorry if you hear some noise in the background, that's my toddler. He wants to always be up in the mix of everything that I'm doing. So what am I doing here? I am just taking some hot glue and I'm putting hot glue all around my border and I am going to glue it on to my sign. So I did take my sand block and sanding down the corners a little bit because I always have, I call them perfect imperfections. And then I was just going over my lines, just touching up everything in the sign. Now this was a Dollar Tree garland and I'm going to use this to make a wreath in the middle of my sign. So just taking out the leaves, the greenery of it because I didn't like it. So I'm going to just use the ring and I'm just putting it into a circle and I'm measuring it on my sign. And you could use anything. You could have anything that you like. Even you could use the jute. They have like the jute that has the wire inside of it. You could use that. Now, this is all just like extra greeneries pieces that I have left over from other projects. And I just want to add some greenery to the wreath, but I don't want to put it all around the wreath. So once I grab the greenery pieces that I have, I just put them in a bunch, and I take some jute twine and I just wrap like a little floral bunch together, and I am going to put it on the side of the wreath. As you see, I'm going to wrap the twine around the bottom of the bunch, the greenery bunch, a good amount of times, because I do want the twine to show on the end of the stems. You can honestly use whatever florals you want, whatever florals you have, because you always want to make every project your own. When I do projects, I do it to my liking, my taste. Now, to hold the ring together, I'm taking that jute again, that twine again, I should say, and I am wrapping some just on the top of the ring, and I'm sorry, the wreath form, and I'm just wrapping it a good amount of times, and I'm going to use some hot glue, and I'm going to just wrap and wrap and wrap just on the top of it. Now, because I like the look that it gives the sign in the wreath, just having a little bit of twine showing on the top and on the side of the wreath form. Now, once I'm done finally wrapping everything around, I'm going to take my little bunch and I am going to place it on the side of where I want it. A little dab of glue and just hold it on there. It will stay, just press down. Anyways, we are going to wrap it again. How many times have I said wrap? Like, wrap, wrap, wrap. It's not like I'm trying to rap a song here. But taking that jute again, and I'm just going around again, holding down the florals. You know, it is glued. Holding it down and just wrapping again, the florals around the wreath form. So once I had the bunch on there, it was like a little too green, a little too plain for me. So I had these like little yellow bunches that I had left over, so I stuck those in there. And I completely forgot that I have not went over my frame yet. So I just took Waverly and Antique and I just painted around and grabbed a wipe and just wiped it down just to give it like that stain look. So now that I have the frame done and the wreath done, I placed my wreath in the middle of my frame, and I just wanted some wording in it. It was like a little too plain for me. So I have these stencils from Dollar Tree that I have used before, and you could use your Cricut. I have a Cricut, but I like the way the stencil looks at times. And Dollar Tree does carry stickers as well that you could use. These stencils do bleed through, so you do have to hold it down. So I didn't want to do it with paint, just in case I did mess up and I would have to go over my frame again. So I grabbed the paint pen, and the paint pen, I feel like it wasn't showing the right way that I wanted to show, so I just went over the letters, and so the letters came out a little bit chunkier, but I like the way it ended up looking at the end. And once my word was there, I took my wreath and I glued it onto the frame, and that was it. I was done. I honestly love the way this one came out. Okay, I love this one. It's so easy, but it's so beautiful. So this house was from Dollar General. I always pick up a couple like little pieces from Dollar General because you can always DIY them. And I just ripped off that little rectangle square piece that it had. And I do always save that little pieces that they do have because you never know what you could use it in. So I ripped off as much as the paper that I can from the house, and I sanded off as much as I can. You know, when Dollar General does have these little pieces and like their little picture frames, and they're always only for like $1.50, grab as much as you can because they're the easiest thing to DIY with, and they're just so cute. Now I took my plaster paint and I'm going to paint the front of my house and the back of my house in this color. So now that I have the house painted and all dried up, I got these wood letters from Dollar General as well. You could pick them up in Dollar Tree, and Walmart has them as well. So I'm taking out 4 letters and I am going to spell out the word home. Now, once I have my letters out, I do take my Waverly chalk paint and the color ink, and I'm going to paint all my letters in this color. And I do paint the sides as well of the letters because we are going to put them on the house, and the sides do show once we do place them on. So going back to the house, I am painting the roof in Waverly chalk paint in the color antique. I tend to work in weird orders. Like I should have painted the roof and then painted the letters. But I'm always working, or crafting I should say, in order, like weird order. That's how I do my life. So I am just painted the top of the roof and the side of the roof. Now once everything is all dried up, I am going to take my letters and I am going to place them, the H and the O side by side, and the M and the E side by side. And once they are in the placement that I want, I am going to take my hot glue and glue it on to my house, and that's it, and it's done. This project was so easy, and the way that it came out, it was just such a little cute little accent, a farmhouse accent that you could put on a tier tray, you could display, or just on a shelf. So with this DIY, I literally recycled trash. My footage got erased, so that's why I'm showing you the picture. My son loves these little puff snacks, and instead of throwing it away, I was like, oh, that would be a cool shape for a vase. So I gave it a base coat of white chalk paint, since it is plastic, and I went over it with plaster because I wanted that off-white color. Once it was dried up, I took my chippy brush with antique Waverly chalk paint and I dry brushed the whole entire vase. See, things that I love about projects like these, you can literally take whatever that you're going to throw away, like trash, and you can make it into something so beautiful. And that's like the joy of crafting, is seeing what you take out of basically junk and these masterpieces that you make. That's why I love crafting, because I get so excited when I turn something so simple into something that I love. Now, once it's all painted, I take this Dollar Tree lace ribbon and I just am going to wrap the ribbon around the top just to give it a little something something, because I just didn't want to just paint it and just leave it like that. So I take my hot glue gun, I just dab a little bit of hot glue and I rub it around, since it is plastic and it is lace. I don't want it to look bumpy with the hot glue. And I also added a piece to the bottom of it as well. Remember, like I said, you could make any project your own. You could put any type of ribbon on anything. When crafting, go crazy and have fun with it. Make it fit your decor. Now I felt like it needed a little something, so I have these little 10mm beads that I picked up on Amazon a while back. So I am going to take all these beads and I am just going to wrap the beads around the middle of the vase. And you know how the beads have holes? I didn't want the holes to be like looking outwards, so I just laid the beads to their side, and I just covered up the holes with one bead next to each other, one next to each other, one next to each other, one. And I did this to go all around. And once I was done attaching the beads to the middle of it, I took some Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster with a sponge brush, and I brushed over the beads. And I also took my Waverly chalk paint in the color antique, and I Didn't necessarily dry brush it. I brushed it on a little bit harder than dry brushing. Then I added some greenery inside of it, some boxwood, and that was it. It was complete. Something so simple turned into a nice piece of decor. I'm definitely going to display this on the tray that we made earlier. Now let's take a look at everything that we made today. Thank you guys for watching, and remember, smash that like button and share this video, and don't forget to turn on your bell notification to be notified when I post my next video. And just remember, in this world that could throw twists and turns, always make good choices.